Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of We Need to Talk. My guest today is a talented actress and social justice advocate. She's currently starring on Tyler Perry's comedy series Assisted Living on BET, and today we're going to be talking about her career journey, her passions, and issues that matter the most to her. Courtney Nichole, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Malynda. I appreciate it.
Of course.
I'm excited to talk about all of this good stuff.
All of it. You know, what I love about your journey and reading more about you is that you were exposed to arts at a young age, and I was as well. And I think it's no secret that the arts can help save lives, especially with kids. You know, it helps you stay out of trouble. It helps you learn self-expression, how to function in a community. And it's unfortunate that the arts is usually the first thing that's taken out of educational budgets, you know? So for you, though, having been exposed to the arts and getting involved in theater and dance so young, what was that impact like on your life? And how are you able to use some of the lessons that you learned as you grew older?
You know, I mean, just invaluable. I think is like the first word that came to mind, thinking about being able to, like you said, spend my summers there around like-minded individuals, you know, and just, I love using imagination, right? Like, I think that's so important for especially kids, right? That's where like reading books comes into play. You know, like you said, things like the arts and just being able to, you know, I'm thinking of dance. Let's just go through them each individually. Like dance, it helps you, you know, get more familiar with your body. You don't even know at 10 you need to get familiar with your body. But when you see kids dance, oh my gosh, like it's so freeing. Like they just really get into it. Like I look at my son now and I'm just like, man, my body can't move like that anymore. But it's such a huge thing. And I think it takes you, you know, it can take you so many places. And it helps like with, I think socially, you know, right? Like, so you're around this group of kids, you know, you're taking music, or, we learned a little bit of piano. We did Catherine Dunham dance. I'm learning my body. I'm playing with my fingers, dexterity, you know, I'm using my brain to try to be, you know, using my imagination and trying to think past this moment. And all of those things come into play, you know, just as you get older and you don't even know it, you know. So when you get in those rooms and your first job, you have to have an interview, you know, you have an interview, or, you know, when you need to speak to your boss or even speak up for yourself. Yeah. I think that those things just kind of help you with creating or learning what your voice is, you know, learn what you like, what you don't like, what hurts you, you know, you learn to work through your comfort levels, right? You know, with dance, it wasn't always easy. You're not always comfortable dancing in front of other people, but it just is something about that just lets you settle into who you are, right? Yeah. And you may not do anything with those arts that you learned about, but it helped you realize what you do or don't want to do in life, or how to speak up for yourself, or how to talk to others, your teacher, other classmates. It's about community. For sure. You know, you end up helping each other, you know, helping somebody put their shoes on for dance, or if they did something a little wrong and, you know, you can say, oh, hey, I can help you with that after class, like that learning your voice. So I think the arts are so important. And I don't know if you know this or if we've ever talked about it, since, you know, I know this is our second interview, but I was an educator for 13 years. So like you said, I know firsthand that these are the things that they take out of schools first.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you hit on something that is very important. You said, you know, even if you don't use the arts, you know, later on, the lessons that you learn are so valuable. But having been an educator, because I was too, I taught music and I taught preschool, and it was always the first thing to go. But from your vantage point, why do you think the arts are the first thing that they take away, despite there being so much proof that it actually does help a child's trajectory?
You know what? I think when we're talking about, so this is part of the reason why I wanted to leave public education. You know what I'm saying? Because it wasn't just about the students. To me, I'm then playing politics, right? So we know that every child has a right to a free education, right? So they can provide that. But as soon as the budgets are cut or money needs to be, it's like, they're like, okay, we'll keep PE so they can be active. And in some places, they even cut that. Yeah. It's just the easiest thing to cut, right? First, I think it's like a second language. They cut that out first. They're like, oh, well, they know how to speak English. We teaching them that. So, honey, that can go, right? Yeah. I think language is first, right? And then I think a lot of people think that it's an extra thing, you know, because a lot, you know, and it's about representation matters, right? I think that's what we came, like, we're in this new civil rights moment, right? I feel like, you know, after 2020, everybody is like, hashtag representation matters. Right. That matters. And so a lot of times when you're talking about people who are in those positions to make those decisions, if they have not had an experience in the arts, they may not personally find the value. So when they have the pen in their hand and they're making the decision on what to cut, then that's what's cut. Man, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I think it's about who has the pen. So representation matters. It matters that, you know, it blows my mind that, you know, they'll pull a superintendent who's been in the business world to be the superintendent of education. I'm talking about this person that had no, and listen, I'm going to speak just regular. Okay, I know standard American English, but this person that had no education background, they ain't taught not one preschool class, honey. They ain't taught, listen, they don't have any experience. They haven't been an educator, a principal. They ain't even been a paraprofessional. Right. You know what I'm saying?
They may not even be a parent.
Come on, talk about it. You see what I'm saying? And you have they have no reference. So then all they're thinking about, and you know, I love a business major, right? You are looking at analytics and statistics and all of those things, and that's great. But it would, to me, just behoove them to, if they're going to pull somebody like that, just to make sure, like, I know to be a counselor, you have to have taught in a class, at least you have to have 3 years of classroom teaching, right? Yeah. So that you know what you're trying to change, you know exactly who you're trying to impact, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you pull somebody who's just been running businesses, honey, and they just been crunching numbers and try to make sure the money is where it is, they don't find the value in those things. Yeah. You know, they don't sit down. That's why I love a lot of these they're doing it a lot with police accountability, like citizens review boards and things like that. Yeah. Like, I really don't think they value even the teacher's opinion sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
Which is crazy to me because I come from a family of educators. My mom was a counselor. My sister's currently a fourth grade teacher. And I think you making that statement is so true. It's like you're not going to the people that these decisions are actually directly affecting, you know? Yeah. So you got to talk to the teachers. You got to talk to the people that are dealing with the kids because they know what the kids need first and foremost. Yes. And that's what's the most important thing.
Yes, you see it. Like, I think when people ask me what I loved about education is I love to see the light bulb go off. Right? Like that just makes, you know me, I'm just an emotional being, but that just tugs at my heart. Like when that light bulb, when they have that light bulb moment and they finally got what it was that, you know, what to do with a fraction, you know, speaking about fourth grade, right? It's like, oh, I know how to multiply these things and, you know, like I can figure it out now. Or, you know, when we're talking about the art, right? So you see somebody who's been taking dance who was so shy when they walked in the room and basically hid, wanted to go to the back so they didn't even see themselves in the mirror. You know that child, right? We see them all.
We all have,
And then the moment when they want to be in the front, baby. Malynda, you know what I'm saying? Like that moment is just like, shine, baby, shine.
Yes.
You know, so I think that is so valuable. I really our education system has not been revamped in so many years. So I really think that would be important. Like I always said, I used to joke and be like, honey, if I don't make it as an actress, then I just want to marry rich so I can be an education lobbyist, you know? That might sound a little crazy, but you know, but it's like, but I guess I wasn't thinking past my front door, right? Because now look at this opportunity that I have with, you know, being able to use my platform and that's why I'm not mad at the fact that I'm getting, you know, that my career is starting where it is starting, because all of the experience that I've had all of the experiences that I've had in my life help me make decisions now, right? And so I can use my platform that I'm gaining and growing to continue to advocate for students, to continue to advocate for you know, teachers. And so I didn't think that, you know what I'm saying? And so now I'm just like, oh, God, you know, he knew what I needed. He
Absolutely.
said, the right husband, right? and he's created this opportunity for me to be able to speak about these things. Yes.
Absolutely. And sometimes we do have to look at the bigger picture in that way, because you were so passionate about teaching, but you were still pulled in the direction of, you know, I want to do the arts. I want to be in front of the camera or even on stage. So was there a specific moment in your life when you were teaching, when you knew, you know what, I need to start making this career shift into doing more performance because this feels right?
Yeah, kind of in the middle. I think I started back professionally in like 2008. So I always use the date August 2nd, 2008. That was the day I entered a monologue competition just to see if I could do what I did when I was, you know, 12 or 13. I was like, girl, now hold on. Look. I was like, who are my favorite actresses? Okay, I like Angela Bassett, Julia Roberts. And my monologue is this, it comes from the movie Erin Brockovich with Julia Roberts. When she's in that boardroom and she said, see, this is pissing me off. First of all, Sister Demure. Like, so that was my monologue. So I did that monologue and I actually won, right? For my age group. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, oh, okay. And like from that moment on, it was like, all right, well, let me go get some headshots. Let me get in some acting classes, right? And then it was like, all right, well, you know, it was still fun to me. I was still teaching. I was like, you know, I would still get off work. So between 4 and 1 o'clock in the morning, girl, I was at my computer submitting or going on auditions, you know, just kind of in between grading papers and all that stuff, you know. And then I think around maybe so maybe like 4 or 5 years after that, and I just really saw the value, right? I said, okay, maybe I have another gift, right? Maybe this is real, which is, I think, and I'm an adult, right? So imagine a kid being able to realize what their gifts are. That's why we have to keep them allow them to do multiple things, allow them to be in the arts, play sports, write, read,
all the
draw,
things,
all the things, so we can figure it out. Because I'm 30-some years old, and I'm like, okay, I think I can do this. And I think it just, you know, you'll just have that moment. And actually, I think sometimes when you don't move, things move around you.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, as much as I love teaching and my students, I had a young man who was not my student. We had an incident. I say assaulted. I was trying to get him to be quiet in a cafeteria. He wanted to leave. He was taking his younger sister out. And I said, hey, well, why don't you leave her here? Like, she's a young one. She's like kindergarten. She's going to be hungry before lunchtime because you mad somebody asked you to be quiet. And he chucked the deuces at me, pushed my shoulder and brushed past me. So I turned around and tried to like reach for his book bag to say, hey, slow down. And I guess he took that as a threat. He turned around, grabbed me by my jean jacket, pushed me into a lunch table that was not locked. it rolled. I had to have surgery, so I had scarred on my arm.
Gosh.
I still don't have all the mobility in my right arm, and it took 2 teachers to get him off of me. And I think it was that moment that I said, that
this might be time to.
This may be time. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I said, because sometimes we'll keep doing things. Even recently, even with this acting thing, I broke my ankle in 2019 and then booked assisted living in January. I was in a place and maybe I needed to leave that place of employment before, you know what I'm saying? But whatever, I don't know if that was the devil acting, and then God said, well, I'm going to fix what he did. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Took me out of a position, and then look at the blessings. It was like, that's why I always say God is not the author of confusion, and we have to remember that he is the one that writes. Amen. You know what I'm saying? Like, man can say whatever they want to say, but he blessed me abundantly. Yes. I didn't have to, I worked, and then and we finished. We wrapped March 1st, and the world shut down March 16th. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So those are 2 things that have happened in my life, and I think it just hit a switch. So that was the moment where it's like, you know what? Maybe there's another way that I can reach students, right? Like, I'm just starting my nonprofit organization now.
Congrats.
Thank you, which is a journey, but it is definitely to empower our youth, to make sure that they have resources, and to make sure that our communities are thriving, right? Like, I'm in my girl chat group from Chicago, like, y'all, when we buying a block?
Yes.
Like, we get together, get an investment group going, because it's going to take planning, but we can start now. If it takes us 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, like, we got to do this. So those are the things that are important to me. So I think that was that moment for me. That was definitely one moment for me. I'll say that I went back to teaching after that. I took a leave, still dealt with my shoulder. And you know what? While I was out on that leave, I said to myself, this is a time where I should be really kind of like getting into my acting more, right? And I said, okay, but listening to other people. I had somebody tell me, they said, well, you better watch it, honey, because they watching you while you off work and you doing the acting thing, and I'm like, oh, well, what did they do to me? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I'm going to go back to work, but I do need to heal, and like, my acting didn't take what it took for me to teach. Being active with those kids in an elementary school is completely different than going on set and kind of saying a few lines, unless I had like an action role or something, and that's just not necessarily my casting right now. Look, Leah is playing a mama is definitely my casting, but Catwoman, girl, you're like, I'm not gonna touch that. That's not my casting. So I went back. I said I was gonna substitute teach. I was like, at least that way I could, make a little money, because we're human, right? We need money, thriving. So I started teaching. A teacher went out on maternity leave, and when you glow and you shine, it was like, hey, Miss Celeste, you're doing a great job. Can you stay? I said, okay, for the babies, I'm going to stay. All right. Because I left that school system that I got when I got assaulted. And then, so now I'm in this one, right? And then I went and I taught one more year, and I had another student who was upset about computers and dealing with some things emotionally, and I think again, to talk about resources in education. So they first of all, they max out these class sizes. It's no reason I should have 30 10-year-olds in my classroom with no paraprofessional, no help, anything, when their attention spans, especially with the way education is right now, you want them, which is great, you want them up and moving, controlling the classrooms, help, it needs to be interactive, right? And so we had 15 computers that you can go get, that we had to share throughout the team, like the whole 4th grade team. So I had to pick a day. I'm gonna get them on Tuesday. I'm gonna get these 15 on Tuesday. Went and got the 15 computers on whatever day that was. And so to solve this problem, I'm like, hey, well, here's the book work, right? So you all start with the computers, and then you all start with the book work. When you finish, you can flip with somebody, right? And then they'll do the, you know what I'm saying? Well, he was upset and he didn't want to do the book work at all. He wanted the computer the whole time. And, you know, these kids are like, they're playing games all the times and they're very tech savvy. So I get the desire. But it was also not my fault that I didn't have access to them, you know? And so he couldn't get them. I spoke to him. I'm like, hey, babe, you know, we'll go sit down, right? We'll talk about it. Just do your work. And I saw him over there writing. And I said, you know what? Maybe it worked today. Maybe he's good today. He over there doing his work. Girl, I went over there, and the first line on his paper was, I want to kill my teacher. I said, wait a minute. Now, see, we got to, now, to me, that's counseling. Now, we're talking, and we're talking about policing and accountability. Y'all got money. Now, I'm at a school with 1,200 kids, 2 counselors.
Ooh.
Ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
You know what I'm saying? So these babies are going through divorce. I always worked in an inner city school. They may have had parents who were incarcerated, some of them. They are, you know, whatever they're going through, you know, instead of being able to have small groups, they're overworked, these counselors, right? So instead of y'all putting money into counselors and making sure that we're dealing with the mental health, which I think is about to turn right now since it's such a big hot
It's a big conversation. Yeah, for
sure.
sure.
I'm saying? It's a very big conversation. And I'm glad to be able to share my voice to talk about this from a firsthand experience.
Absolutely.
You know, so it's like my first thing was to call the counselor. I called the counselor and was like, hey, can you come talk to him? And they ended up switching him to another class. But he did the same thing with that teacher. Again, it was technology. He was very into technology. And it was testing time. And I think that morning, the teacher told them, well, we're not going to get on the computers this morning. I just need y'all to go ahead and get ready for the test. And he was like, I'm not doing this. Y'all make me sick, hollering, you know, dealing with whatever. I don't know what this baby was dealing with emotionally.
Right, right.
I'm not here to judge that. You see what I'm saying? That's why I say I want to be an advocate for the teachers and the students. Because one, where was the safety for us? But two, this baby had some things that was going on with him before he got to us.
Yeah, where's the comfort for him?
Absolutely. Yeah. There was no need for him to flip out about that when, you know, and then he yelled in the hallway like, I'm going to kill you. Now, nobody put your hands on you and like anything. So that was the second thing. And after that, that was the year I resigned.
Yeah.
I said, now, one, you put your hands on me. Two, you done told me. And the principal even is like, she's talking to me and she's like, are you sure you want to call his parents? Are you sure you want to, you know, make this a report official? And by that time I had already had this incident done.
Yeah.
And I understood because you're looking at this child like they're 9, 10, and 4th grade, right? Like your sister teaches 4th grade. So it's like you're looking at them like you're still a child. This can't be possible. But also, we've already seen massive school shootings at this point. And at this point, a 4th grader has already put their hands on me. So while you may not be in belief that they will do what they said they were to do, I very much am.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what his parents, what weapons his parents have at home. I don't know if he's going to come back upset another day. You know what I'm saying? Like so yes, I need to figure out, y'all need to be getting him once or twice a week to counsel. And yes, I want this in his file, not to like, you know, demean, you know, like mess up his reputation,
right.
But just so that like, so say for instance, he never deals with his anger, this child, and he gets to high school and has another problem, and say he does something, shoots, actually beats up a teacher, does something like that. Yeah. If this isn't in his file, then they will never know that it was something that needed to be addressed in the first place.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it wasn't to his detriment that I wanted that, but it was for his good. Yeah. And maybe they just didn't have the belief that they could do good with that, which is the politics that we end up playing with. So
it is.
That was a step out of education and the more nonprofit, more how can I help them individually?
100%.
Because I still want to work with my babies.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, so there's two things that I wanted to comment on. One, it's interesting that there is lack of counseling in inner cities when you would think that those are the schools that need the counseling the most, right? But two, I love how this has come back full circle for you, because even though you left those situations that were unsafe for you, you are now figuring out, okay, I'm in a position with my platform to create a nonprofit that can go back and help those type of students. And that's so beautiful, Courtney.
Thank you, Malynda.
It's so beautiful.
I'm like, if the government can't seem to find the money, unfortunately, right?
They find money for the things they care about.
I got you, because I'm going to get this money from y'all through my nonprofit. How about that? And I'm going to still help these babies that y'all take money from in the first place. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And give it back to my community. So, yeah, that's so important to me because they're our future. And I had people that sold into me. I had teachers that sold into me. I talk about my favorite teacher, Miss Palm, all the time. She took me on Saturdays to speech competition. Again, in art that I didn't even know they had speech. Because coming from the hood that I was from, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm a debater and a communicator. Oh, you telling me I could put my words together, honey, and chop somebody up on the stage and win an award for it? Give it to me.
You're like, don't threaten me with a good time.
I'm like, this is music to my ears. Because then I can fight with the causes and talk about the things that I want to talk about. So, and I feel I have a half sister, and I don't call her half sister, but I'm saying it here to say that we didn't live together, right? But she would come over on the weekends a lot of times, and if my sister was there that weekend, she went with us. She didn't, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I had people like that sold into me, which is what made me go towards education in the first place. Right. When actually, Malynda, it was that I didn't believe in myself enough that I thought I could make my dream come true at 17. And I was, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I was at a school or in a community. I actually, the more I'm interviewing and talking, I don't think when I graduated from high school, I actually realized that I could major in the arts. Real talk, Malynda. Yeah. It didn't even cross my mind.
That's not surprising because it's not sold that way.
It's not sold that way. I'm thinking I got to get a job with some money, honey. And like it didn't even cross my mind, but why not? And that's why I think it's important for us to make sure that we're sewing into our communities. I would try to, as I learned as I got older, I would teach my kids, on career day, of course, you have your police officers, firefighters, all those standard jobs that would come up to the school to talk to the kids. And I'm just like, I want y'all to think about people like the sound engineers that are on these major sets. Like when we started, you said you got some headphones. Well, we can mix it and we can do blah, 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 right? That's not my language. That's like talking about biology to me, right? But somebody loves this job.
Yes.
Somebody loves playing with those levels and finding those peaks and you know what I'm saying? And like, oh, okay, I can smooth this out. Yeah. Somebody loves to be a colorist, to do film correction on movies and like, oh, baby, that pops right there. Somebody loves to create to make the special effects happen in movies, right? But a lot of times our babies in the communities that I taught in and also, unfortunately, that I grew up in, are not exposed to those things. So I had to remind them, I would be like, listen, like these people can stay on the same block as Oprah, baby. They just don't get, so if you one of them quiet people that really don't like the camera and all of that, I understand. I don't mind it. But if you're one of those people, because we're all different, then guess what? There's a job for you in those areas where you can build generational wealth for your family, not have to worry about your financial, day-to-days, you know what I'm saying? Have a beautiful home, provide for your family, and not have to deal with the paparazzi is how I used to put it to him. But if those opportunities and things are not put in front of them, they don't know that. What's put in front of them is let's play football, basketball, maybe baseball. Girls, of course, we're watching TV. It's like, oh, I could be a model and a star, which is great because I wanted that too. But it's like, what lane? Right. And how do you want it? Because the first example that comes to mind is like, I know, I always say I didn't really like to date actors when I got into acting, because I was just like, oh, maybe they flirt with girls on all the sets, or, things like that. It's like, because you might have a love interest, and then you think you like somebody, and then they might have a love interest scene with somebody else a year later, and whatever. But it's like when you think that way, you're not exposed to anything else. It was like I didn't want to sleep my way to the top. I did not want anybody or these people to be able to say that I got a part or I did anything because of something like that. A director,
because of anything other than you working hard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I just want my babies to know that it's about your value.
Yeah.
Right? And you are so valuable. And sometimes as a teacher, that not all the parents. I mean, of course, there are some students who, unfortunately didn't have a great parental, base at the house, but majority of them at least had one great parent, guardian, grandparent, somebody. But a lot of times I realized that they were working so hard too. Our society, right? Yeah. A lot of my parents worked 2 jobs sometimes. So they're dropping them off at 7 o'clock in the morning, right? And then they might not see their mom or dad until 7 or 8 o'clock at night, In 4th grade, 10 years old. I also taught middle school. You can kind of stay at home by yourself a little longer. Mm-hmm. I was one of those latchkey kids that they call them. I came home, I know not to open the door. It was me and my brother, things like that. And so with that being said, I knew that in the 7 to 8 hours that I had them, I tried to pour as much love and just like expand their dreams, like just as much as I could. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so I love that. I love meeting people who also do that same thing. Yeah. And I'm really excited. Like I said, I just started my nonprofit. I'm still starting it, but I'm really excited about being able to expose them to that. Yeah. Yeah. Like my cousin, he's also in education. He was telling me like they have this sports school, right? Where kids can go and learn about all kind of things in sports, like physical therapy. They do the basic stuff, but they learn about all the areas running, whether it comes from the management side of sports, to health and healing, to coaching, and I forget it, the name of the school escapes me, but we need arts schools like that. That not just when they get to college. I'm talking about elementary, middle school, and high school.
When it has the biggest impact. Because to me, that's when it is the biggest impact, those ages.
That's when they know they can do it, because kids are fearless, right? Yes. It's when we get older that we be like I said, when it was college and I was like, oh, well, I don't know if I can do this. I got to make a decision, a life decision, and pay some bills, then it's different. But when you're 9, 10, 8, 5, you are fearless. You think you can do anything. And while they think they can do anything, I need them to know that they can.
Yes.
And show them what those anythings are, right?
Amen.
Let me give you some anything options, okay?
Yes.
Anything like this, or like this. You can do it, honey. You can do it all, okay? And don't let nobody tell you didn't. And I used to tell my kids that Miss Celeste told you you could. I don't care who in life tells you you can't, baby. You remember this name, all right?
Yes.
And you know that you can. So I love, speaking of that, I even love when they hit me up now, on Instagram or Facebook and send me a message, and so I love it. But yes, so
that's amazing. I love that. And I'm glad that they reach out to you, because then you've made the impact that you were seeking to make in the first place. And that's got to feel so good. And I know there's another thing that you're very passionate about, which is body positivity. And I know that that's also a big conversation. So in your own words, what is body positivity, and why do you think that this movement is so important?
Loving yourself, right? I think that's body positivity, because I'm talking about from the toenails to your split ends, right? All of it. Okay? All of it. You gotta love all of it, right? And I just think that, yesterday I was just talking about Black is King with, that Beyonce did, and how I love that she's a more lightly melanated female, but that her anthem for the brown skinned girls, I love that it was her honoring and speaking and power into that as well. You know what I'm saying? Like I have a sister and we are, on the opposites. Like I'm a lighter version, she's a darker version. Chocolate and vanilla is how we used to talk about ourselves when we were younger. But we have such a spectrum when you're talking about color rise, right, in the Black community. Even just like how our bodies are made, everything is different, and just appreciating that. Like I love people like Lizzo, who's like, I'm healthy, I'm out here working out. Or is it Danielle Young?
Yes.
Yes. You know how she's like, baby, I'm gonna wear this crop top and y'all see how cute this is, right? And like, yes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So to our smaller women, like there are thin women who sometimes want to gain weight and can't, right? And they get teased in school too. They get called string bean, pole. You know what I'm saying? Mean things. Kids are mean. We were mean. My kids mean. Or just honest, I'll say sometimes too, but we are mean, but we're mean. But so I love people like that who are able to use their platforms as well, but it is all about loving yourself. And we've talked a lot about kids and education, but I think it just all goes back to what we get when we're younger, and some of us have just been unfortunately, we can talk about so many things, but for hundreds of years we've been fighting to say that we're beautiful. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so many of us come from trauma.
Yes.
And I've heard so many people, I have friends who just, have talked, and like maybe their mom or dad never told them they loved them until they got old enough to voice to their parent that was, something that they realized they didn't get. And and so usually that parent is like, oh, well, I didn't get it. Oh, as a matter of fact, I didn't mean to not tell you I didn't love you, but I think it was because I didn't get it, right?
Yeah.
And it may have been because they needed to be tough, right? It may have been because they couldn't show that emotion. It may have been because, you can go back to slavery, that our families were broken, right? And we just had to grow up too early sometimes, right? And so we are a people, unlike some other races. But that resilience may have made us push the love down, right? And just power through. You see what I'm saying, Malynda? Yes. It was like, all right, well, we don't have time to be down, right? I ain't got time to be hollering, I love you, kiss, kiss, mama, stay on my hip, let's go. We got this. Whatever we doing, we got to get on this bus, we got to go, we got to move, or we got to get this house, or, whatever it is, or we got to build this generational wealth, or whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
And so, just making sure that our babies know that they're loved and they're beautiful from zero, right, is what I don't think that all people get. And I'm sure that's across the board in many races, not just Black communities. Right. But it's a real thing. And so I think that also plays into what we're talking about with body positivity and loving yourself. And that a lot of times that's self-talk.
Yep, absolutely.
When we're coming from this generational trauma sometimes, right?
Absolutely.
And so we talk a lot about how we have to talk in our community. And some of the young ladies who have been, in my DM, like, because I have teenagers on the show, I feel like I do have a lot of teenagers that show me love, or call me auntie or mama, and I love it. I try to make sure I respond to them. If I'm busy running around, like, we got these interviews today, running, I at least double tap, heart them. I love it.
Yeah, of course, show them some love.
We got a whole thread, but have a good day. two little girls hopped on and a young man. They may hear this, but it was funny because when I put them on, their cameras were to the ceiling. They didn't really want to show their face on the live. Now, maybe they didn't think that I was going to show them. Maybe they didn't think that I was going to let them on the Zoom.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, let me see you, right? And they just at home chilling, so they might have their little scarf on. I think one little girl had a little scarf on, a little ponytail. Like, y'all see this little knot I got on my head today? This is what we do chilling at the house. We ain't always made up chilling at the house. And I wanted them to know that they were beautiful in that element.
Yeah.
You don't always have no lashes on and some mascara and blush to be beautiful.
Right.
You cute sitting right there in your house. But I had that. I had to realize that everybody didn't have that growing up. My daddy and my mom made sure I heard that. And so I think that's why it's so important to me. And I think once I started teaching it, after teaching hundreds of kids, if not at least 1,000 or more, at this point, because you teach in middle school, you got several classes a day, is that I realized that a lot of babies don't always get that. So, where, maybe in your field, I just had the blessing of being able to have access to that many youth.
Yep.
And so I feel like I can speak from an expert opinion in saying that out of all of those that I taught, I realized that half might be a big number. But if I taught 1,000 students and 500 of them weren't getting "you're beautiful" or "handsome" at the house all the time because of maybe how busy mom and dad were or their trauma, and that wasn't something they innately dealt with, or innately complimented people, it became purposeful for me. I did it on purpose.
Yeah.
And we have to love each other on purpose.
Yes.
Compliment each other on purpose. Tell our babies they are beautiful on purpose. I know people jokingly say, "Ooh, babies are ugly. Them little infants be ugly, girl." When my friends send me they little babies, I be like, "Look at them. They so handsome already. They so cute already." Okay? Because they are. Yeah. They are. They're here, right? Sure. And what would you look like if you just came out of a canal, baby? I better stop talking about them babies. Them babies just worked for 30 hours. Okay? What you look like after 30 hours of work? How dare you judge that baby?
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I love that. Oh, well, Courtney, you are just a ball of light and inspiration, and I love everything that you're doing. Can you let everybody know where they can follow you and keep up with when you launch your nonprofit as well? Because I would be happy to support it.
Thank you so much. So right now you can follow me on Instagram at The Real Courtney, and that's REEL, like movie reel. So The Real Courtney. I'm also The Real Courtney on Twitter, and I may be The Real Courtney on Facebook, or it definitely comes up Courtney Nichole. My nonprofit organization is Love Jam Court. So my husband's name is Jamal, and I'm Courtney. So we did the Bennifer thing, and we did Jam Court, and we came up with that just thinking about when we give gifts or things like that. So when it comes from us, it'll say Love Jam Court. So it's all about love. And so we will be loving on our community very, very, very soon. I can't wait to share it and hopefully come back and talk to you more about it when I have some things. We're also working on having a celebrity golf classic event.
Fun.
That I would, and of course it'll be about raising money to help with social justice and help with our communities. So, and I think speaking of things that we do, golf is something that is not always in our community.
That's true.
Something that I learned to love. I learned to love a little later in life. Yeah. So I would love to share that love. It's beautiful to go out there and golf and just look at the green grass and all that.
I could talk to you for hours. You're incredible. And make sure you catch her on Assisted Living on BET, the second season.
Tuesday night at 9:30 on BET. Yes.
Wonderful. Well, Courtney, thank you so much for joining me. And to subscribers, thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again real soon. Bye.